Okay, good afternoon, Johann. Thank you so much for taking time with me for the podcast interview today. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. So, before we dive into the interview questions, would you mind briefly introducing yourself and your background for our audience?
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. My name is Johann Köppel. I'm currently serving as a guest professor here at Uppsala University on campus Scotland. And as you said, the specialization is on environmental planning and impact assessment. And I've been doing this in the same way for 25 years beforehand at the Technical University in Berlin. And as many decisions on renewable energies are related to the land and to the people, that brought us planners into that topic, especially when it comes to wind energy.
Okay, thank you for introductions. So let's dive into questions. I'd like to begin with the big picture. The permitting is often seen as a major bottleneck for the wind energy development, especially in Europe. And so, for your experiences, whether in research or policies or consulting, what do you think are the most effective strategies or tools that can truly help speed up the permitting process?
Yeah, so indeed, the planning and the permitting times for wind energy projects, they have nearly doubled over the last decade. And of course, that should be improved again. But let us begin to understand this first of all. So, in initial waves of wind energy development, there was a lot of space and not so much conflictive areas available, and they are now covered. With the recent development, it's getting denser, and the more dynamic the development, the more processes, the more approval processes, and so forth. So, first of all, not necessarily the staff with the approval agencies grew in the same way, for example. Many issues became indeed ever more sophisticated, especially moderating the potential impacts of wind energy on biodiversity, and this got ever more substantiated and sophisticated. Um, and what also matters is that we got so many court decisions. Too many wind farm projects went to the courts, court decisions had been made, and you have to consider all these decision base when you're doing the approval processes right now. So that's the situation, admittedly. But on the other hand, we are having encouraging developments. And just in my country of origin, in Germany, in 2024, last year, we had double as many permits for wind energy projects than the year before, in 2023. So the question is, how could that happen? So there's hope. Um, and obviously, currently it pays out that a whole bundle of measures had been taken from the previous government to accelerate these processes again. One of these measures has been to deal with the biodiversity sector in this wind energy permitting arena way more standardized. So that was a major thing. And what we also can do and watch in some countries, the state can contribute, the public arena can contribute, especially by designating suitable wind energy area sites already on a medium scale, on a regional scale, and not leaving this only to the local decision-making processes. So if you have on a regional level already an approximate guidance for where you could go better or lesser good for wind energy development, this can help as well. And to close this question and this response from my side on that issue, there's currently a big chance, at least in Europe, because due to the amended Renewable Energies Directive, the member states of the European Union are meant to designate so-called acceleration areas for renewable energies, with a set of measures to hopefully speed up the development as well.
Okay, that was a really clear explanation. Thank you. And uh, On a related note, because digitalization is being promoted in many sectors as a way to improve the speed and the transparency. So, do you believe that digital tools and systems could meaningfully improve the efficiency of the permitting process? If so, in what ways?
Yeah, indeed, any planning and permitting process for wind energy projects creates a lot of data and needs a lot of data handling and needs the finding of convenient measures, mitigation measures, and so forth. And it's a pity that we have so many single cases where we really get the data and do not use them in the best way, in the best sophisticated way. And for example, especially in the offshore sector, where there are often standardized survey programs, monitoring programs when it comes to data, there are obvious developments to develop data hubs, accessible data hubs to work also with the monitoring data. There are encouraging examples. And again, it goes along, I would say, digitalization. You could use the data for even feed into artificial intelligence sooner or later. But it goes along, I think, as well with what I mentioned before, with more standardized processes. So both things, digitalization and standardization, both things together can make it forward.
And next question is about the public engagement, because public engagement is a core part of environmental permittings, sometimes viewed as a challenge, but sometimes viewed also as a strength. So, in your opinion, how is public participation evolving in practice? Do you see it as more as a factor that increase acceptance, or does it more like slow things down?
Let me put it this way, even in my core discipline, environmental impact assessment, when this was born 50 years ago, it was 50% that people wanted to get well informed of potential effects of a project. And the other hand, they wanted to have a voice in the processes. So that were glorious times when it was born in the USA 50 years ago. Well, let it put the other way around. Currently, we see a wave in Europe of new nuclear facilities, especially so-called small modular reactors, also ongoing process in Sweden for the time being. And imagine there would be a modular reactor to be located in your neighborhood. Wouldn't you be grateful to be involved and to get informed, and that you could bring in your voice in this decision-making processes? So independently what kind of projects, I think this is a constituting pillar of democracies. And this is why we need these participation processes. And wind energy should not be treated else like any other power plant or an automotive factory. So it's hard to say whether it's rising or declining acceptance. I think it's simply a constitutory pillar of decision-making processes in polycentric governance in democratic societies. So it's a must.
Okay, very insightful. And because you're working across like different national contexts in Germany or in Sweden, so are there any like notable differences in how countries like Sweden or Germany or Spain handle environmental impact assessment, either in terms of process or stakeholder roles or level of details?
Yeah, as long as we look into these mentioned European states, the EIA processes cannot differ substantially because all the national regulations are rooted in a European legislation, in the European directive, in the European law. And this European law gives the basic fundamentals for these processes. The same is the case for sensitive issues in terms of wind energy development, like the biological resources. And then nearly everything is European-wide regulated or even internationally. So the processes cannot differ a lot, first of all, and they do not. If you look especially into environmental impact assessments for wind energy projects, you often can see slight deviations in a way that I saw in Spain or in Portugal way more often, that they went fully into this step of final compensation instead of mitigation only. But that's still an issue which is possible legally, and it depends somewhat on how the practice in the countries is. But the basic processes are similar. It's also a tremendously well connected global community in that issues. And I think what strikes mostly, if we are considering these decision-making processes with impact assessments, then there's, for example, just in Germany, a very strong focus on the strategic environmental assessment, on the medium scale levels beforehand already, and everything you're doing there already, including public participation. This already, how to say, helps to streamline the local decision-making processes with the local EIAs. But the basic approaches are pretty similar.
Okay. I want to have another question. The whole European states are developing the wind power project, and for right now, because there's more and more offshore project, and do you think that is in the future is probably gonna be like more international cooperations on this development?
I think there are quite logically a lot of cooperations in more detail are given, and this can be done when you're doing a local decision-making process. Often also you could discuss the grid connections together and having their connected hubs, for example. But also when the countries plan their offshore wind energy development expansion, they have to do the marine spatial planning procedures, and then always they are doing a transboundary discussion. That's also a obligatory pillar of environmental impact assessment, transboundary information and participation. So in the day-to-day business, there's a lot of coordination ongoing, but at the end of the day, we missed maybe 20 years ago a big chance to, for example, if you look to the North Sea, where so many, or the Baltic Sea, where so many countries are having a share there, so to speak, and then it would have been nice to set up a Baltic-wide or North Sea-wide development plan in total. This did not happen in that moment. But due to this obligatory marine spatial planning, the processes are to some decent degree coordinated.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful to understand. And finally, for those of us preparing to enter this field, for our students, especially in planning, permitting, and the EIA process, what kind of skills or knowledge areas or attitude do you think are the most essential for making a meaningful impact?
Yeah, just if you think of the beginning of our interview, it was about to accelerate the planning and permitting processes, and therefore you need skilled people, definitely. Well, it's different, I dare say, to develop wind energy than 20 years ago or even 10 years ago, because due to these amazing developments in technology, you nearly can run everywhere. I'm a little exaggerating, but you nearly can run everywhere economically feasible a wind turbine or a wind farm. So this is no longer the decisive bottleneck. So I dare say the bottleneck is often to find a patch of land at all where you get the permit, where you get the acceptance to develop your wind energy project. So meaning you should be glad to be involved in such an integrated wind power management program where you have all the necessary engineering and technological aspects on board, but also this issue of planning and permitting. So there will be a big demand in the future.
Okay, thank you. That's encouraging to hear for us students study in the wind power
Sure.
project management. And thank you again, Johann, for taking the time to sharing your pressure experiences and insights. That's all for today's podcast interview. Thank you again.
Thank you